this past weekend's fight night. Erceg versus Moreno, UFC Mexico. Great crowd here. Before we get to the fights, also newsworthy on this. One of the fights, Joe Pyfer, Kelvin Gastelum out. Joe Pyfer came down with some illness.
Yeah, I guess people were telling him that it was altitude sickness, but he said he had like acclimated and everything for 2 weeks, like in a hyperbaric or an altitude tent or whatever. I don't know how much that works or whatever, or if he actually got sick, but you weight cut and deplete your body and then you're susceptible to all sorts of things. So he said he's never fighting in Mexico City again or at altitude or whatever. I don't know, but that was the most exciting fight on the card for sure, and it's a bummer that I got called off. But overall, the card was still pretty good.
Yeah, and I think they're hoping to get that fight scheduled again soon too.
I hope so. Just want to shout out Raul Rosas Jr. got a win in Mexico as a decision win, but he did show some improvement in his boxing skills. He's still clearly a grappler, but he definitely is showing improvement in the couple of years he's been in the UFC. So they're bringing him along pretty well.
And let's talk about this co-main event.
Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober.
Torres real sharp here. I thought Dober looked a little tentative here. Like coming off a few losses, Dober's usually one who wants to go all out, and I thought he looked a little hesitant, and then he wanted to, I'm sure Dober would have mixed up, but I thought Torres was just like he read it and he was on it. He gets the quick finish, round one. Dober didn't even realize the fight had been stopped. He was still trying to fight at one point, it looked like.
What'd you think of the stoppage?
I didn't have a problem with it. I know some people said it was late. Some people said it was Dober. I thought it was early. I think Dober didn't know where he was.
No, he was out.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought that he probably got knocked out and came back too. And that's just probably what happened. Yeah. So good on. I don't even know who the referee was for this one. Do you remember?
I think it was Beltran.
Yeah. So good on him. Good stoppage. Tough break for Dober. Hopefully he gets another fight in the UFC because I really do like
I think
that.
he will.
Manuel Torres, he's killing it. And I was looking at the top 15. His one loss is against like one of the guys in the top 15. So I'd like to see him maybe getting another exciting fighter, like maybe a Jim Miller or a Bobby Green, somebody like that with a name value. I like those guys, but if you can get one of them to fight him, this is what you try to do, right? With a guy like Manuel Torres, you try to bring him up, and then if he can get a win, hopefully you do put him in there against the top 15 opponent.
Yeah, I did think that the stoppage was late, but I understood why, because Dober was like holding on to Torres's leg, and it looked like he was kind of going for a takedown or whatever, but he was getting hammer fisted, and he never like went limp. So I get why it was hard to stop the fight. But yeah, he was clearly out. When he got up, he was still trying to fight, and the ref was standing in front of him and telling him it was stopped. And I think you're probably right. He probably went out and came back too and was probably still getting punched in the face. And he's just a fighter. So that happens. I'd rather in that situation, it should be the same all the time in theory, but the guy might be fighting for his career at this point. You let him go out all the way. He was out. So he got every opportunity to defend himself. Main event, Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg.
I thought Moreno looked great here. Speed on display. I think that was the big difference here was his quickness. I thought Erceg fought a good fight. I thought he won round two. Maybe a little, I think he was competitive in some of these rounds, but at the end of the day, Moreno just looked like the better fighter. But I thought also credit to Erceg, who competitively fought against the champion, but then got knocked out by Kai Kara France. I thought, coming off that loss, he was set up here really where this could have just been a complete showcase for Moreno, who really wanted to get this win in Mexico. He never seemed to have good luck, but that wasn't the case. I thought Erceg made a great account of himself, and you see why these top flyweights are so good in the adjustments they're making. That being said, good for Moreno, and he's just one of those guys I think you can plug in, whether it's a matchup again. And that's what you're doing, though. You're kind of recycling some of these matchups. You could do Cape, Manuel Cape, because that's a fight that hasn't happened yet. And maybe that's a fight that should happen. Otherwise that, you're looking at Pantoja, or you're looking at Royval, or the gentleman who just came over who lost to Pantoja even. I think he was from Ryzen as well. Pantoja just lost to this guy too.
Yeah, Asakura. I think that's what it is.
That was it.
Yeah. Asakura, yeah.
Yeah. That's a fight you could make too. I think that could be exciting.
Yeah, that would be fun, yeah.
I enjoyed this card. I enjoyed this main event. What did you think of the main event?
I thought Erceg's boxing looked crisp and technical, but Moreno also looked very good defensively. Like he had clearly been working on his boxing defense, lots of head movement. And also I noticed, and I've noticed this before, but Moreno has like deceptively long reach. I think a lot of guys feel like they're safe when they're standing a certain distance from him, but he lunges in and he has long arms, but he holds his arms in so close it's hard to tell. He doesn't do a lot of the range finding that people do. So
He
helps him land.
With his leaning in too, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, he's gonna get kicked in the head for sure. I mean, Erceg did land that one knee on him when he was leaning in there that hit him pretty good. But Moreno was obviously very motivated, like you said, had never gotten a win in Mexico in the UFC, finally earns that win. He was putting everything behind all his punches, all his strikes to try to get the finish. But ultimately, I think he won some very close rounds by well-timed takedowns. At the end of round 5, he got that takedown, and that probably won him the round. There were a lot of close rounds. So ultimately, he gets the victory. Good on him. Like you said, you talked about the matchups. He wants to be on that September Noche card in Guadalajara. I think I didn't think about the Kai Asakura fight. That would be really fun. So I think that might be the way to go. But Royval in Mexico would be fun too.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun fights you could do. The Kai or the Kai Car France actually be a fun fight too.
Yeah, it'd be fun too.
Yeah, but any of those fights where, especially you're gonna get a fun fight like that, I think having him on that USA Noche card though, definitely a good idea.
Right, he's your standout Mexican star, Yeah. So
Yair Rodriguez, we just talked. He has a fight coming up with.
He's just very inactive, is Yair's thing. But he's got a fight against Pitbull. Well,
that would be good.
Possible. He's fighting next week. Definitely enough time to. I mean, he fights once a year though, so.
I know. Yeah, but if I was UFC, that's the people I'd be looking at.
Last time I remember him fighting in Mexico was that Jeremy Stevens fight, though. I mean, he was all amped up and he poked Jeremy in the eye 10 seconds into the fight and it got canceled and he was all upset. And so maybe they could get him to go back on that one. But
thanks for tuning into Combat Cast. We'll see you next week, guys.